Well, Donald Trump may be out of office, but the momentum he created among countries normalizing ties with Israel is not dying out just yet. Israel and Kosovo will establish full diplomatic relations this week in a virtual signing ceremony with Israel's Foreign Minister Gabi Ashkenazi. Israel has agreed in exchange to recognize Kosovo's independence. Here is a social media post with the announcement.
Si ministre e punëve të jashtme dhe diasporës, shumë shpejt do të nënshkruajmë formalizimin e marrëdhënieve diplomatike midis shteteve tona. Ky moment historik vjen në një periudhë teje të rëndësishme për ne dhe është përjetësim i kësaj miqësie përmes lidhjes së marrëdhënieve diplomatike dhe shënon fillimin e një epoke të re mes dy vendeve tona.
All right, let's speak with international relations expert Dr. Emmanuel Navon. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So this is a U.S. broker deal, but it is separate from the Abraham Accords. I just want to make sure that's correct. Why is this happening now?
Well, it is technically separated from the Abraham Accords, but it is part of the U.S. policy under the Trump administration of the efforts to try and widen the cycle of countries that normalize their relations with Israel. And now that the Trump administration is no longer in power, I think Kosovo wanted to make sure that this normalization with Israel, Kosovo being a mostly Muslim country, would have this normalization with Israel, which also entails Israel recognizing Kosovo, something that Israel has refused to do for many years.
Right, so Kosovo's independence will be recognized by Israel as part of the deal, and what does Israel get?
So as far as Israel is concerned, first of all, it was under pressure from the Trump administration to change its policy on Kosovo. For many years, Israel did not recognize Kosovo for two main reasons. First of all, it did not want to set a precedent that might apply to the Palestinian Authority, saying that if Kosovo could secede from Serbia and be recognized, then the Palestinian Authority might follow suit. And so Israel did not want to set this precedent. Also, Israel did not want to cross Russia, because Russia opposes the recognition of Kosovo, and Israel needs its cooperation with Russia over Serbia. So basically, it was pressure from the Trump administration to show an achievement in foreign policy. And in terms of what Israel gets in return is, of course, this promise from Kosovo to open its embassy in Jerusalem.
Okay, so speaking of that embassy, this will be the first Muslim-majority country to open an embassy in Jerusalem. How significant is that?
Well, it is very significant because so far all Muslim countries have refused to do so. And if we have had so far some countries opening their embassies in Jerusalem, especially, of course, the United States, but also a couple of countries from Latin America, none of those countries, of course, are Muslim or Muslim majority countries. And so that is definitely a precedent that might encourage other countries, other Muslim countries that have relations with Israel now, to follow suit, even though I don't expect this to happen very soon, but it is definitely a welcome precedent, and it is unprecedented.
Do you foresee more countries normalizing ties with Israel and maybe even opening embassies in Jerusalem during the Biden era?
Well, hopefully the Biden administration will continue those efforts. Whether or not it will have the same leverage on those countries is an open question. I think the next countries in line who are candidates, so to speak, to normalize our relation with Israel, mostly Indonesia, the largest Muslim country in the world. There were talks in the last days of the Trump administration of Indonesia also normalizing with Israel. I think this should definitely be something the Biden administration would want to work on. It would be an important development in Israel's position and foreign relations in Southeast Asia.
All right, Dr. Navon, thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you.